Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, the first verse. Is the Basmala, the Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, a part of the Fatiha or not? The enormous question is Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim a part of other chapters of the Qur'an or not? Everyone agrees that Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim is mentioned as part of the Quranic text. Everyone, without disagreement, in Surah An-Naml, the chapter of ants, Surah An-Naml. And everyone agrees that Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim is not a part of Surah At-Tawbah, the chapter of repentance. What then people disagree on, if it's a part of every other chapter other than At-Tawbah at the beginning, or a part of no other chapter, or no chapter whatsoever. So why do we say Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim? Because, understand, the argument is whether it is part of the chapter itself, the surah itself, or simply we say it because we must say it before we begin anything. Because of this disagreement as to whether it is part of the Fatiha or not, arose the other debate as to whether you recite it out aloud in Jama'ah prayer or not. Everyone says you should say it. Why should you say it? Why should you say Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim before reading the Fatiha? Whether it's a part of Al-Fatiha or not. No. Yeah, just in the sense that you should say Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim before you start. So you say Allahu Akbar, you say Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Allahu Akbar, and then Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim before you start recitation. But if it is a part of the Fatiha, when let's say you're praying Maghrib, right? Do you recite it out aloud or not? If it's a part of the Fatiha. Yeah, then you should. So you say, you've noticed in my prayers, I recite out aloud, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, alhamdulillahi, rabbil alameen. Why? Because I adhere to the view that it is a part of the Fatiha. If you do not consider it a part of the Fatiha, you say it quietly. You say it to yourself, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, and you start out aloud with alhamdulillahi, rabbil alameen. Majority of Muslims don't know this, and they simply start with alhamdulillahi, rabbil alameen. But when you ask them, do you believe Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim is part of the Fatiha? They say yes. Then if that's the case, you must start with Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim and not alhamdulillahi, rabbil alameen. In other words, they do not understand why is it that we start with alhamdulillahi, rabbil alameen. They think there is a tradition that says it's a part of the Fatiha, but say it quietly anyway. No, that's not it. Okay. Number one, why do I believe that it's a part of the Fatiha? Because if you look at the Fatiha, it makes perfect sense, but other than that, it's called the Sab' al-Mathani, the 7 perils of wisdom. You take the Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, and how many verses do you have? 6. The traditions that support calling it the 7 perils of wisdom are very strong. Consequently, how am I going to say there's 6 but 7? For nothing more simple than that, I've accepted the view personally that it is 7. What is the majority view? There isn't. Muslims are basically split 50-50 on that. Everyone agrees that you should have Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. But whether it's technically part of the chapter or not is something else. Now, let me ask you this. Let's say we are reading Qul A'udhu Rabbil Falaq. And let's say you believe that Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim is a part of every surah in the Qur'an except the Tawbah. Everyone agrees it's not a part of the Tawbah. Everyone agrees about that. There's no disagreement. I haven't found a single opinion or a single jurist that said it is a part of the Tawbah. If you're reading Qul A'udhu Rabbil Falaq and you believe Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim is a part of every other surah, do you read Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim out aloud before Qul A'udhu Rabbil Falaq or not? Absolutely, yes. If you don't, that means you don't believe that it's a part of Qul A'udhu Rabbil Falaq, as an example. Do you follow what I'm saying? So, whatever view you eventually adopt for yourself, just be consistent. Don't be whimsical. You don't read it with the Fatiha, or you read it with the Fatiha but not read it, be consistent. Whether you believe bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim is a part of the Fatiha, that's number one. Whether you believe it's a part of every other surah other than At-Tawbah or not. My own view that it is a part of the Fatiha but not a part of any other surah except in Naml, which is a part in the midst of the text itself. Okay. Some, by the way, have said that it is a part of every other surah except At-Tawbah, as we said, and then Bara'ah and Al-Anfal. That also is a quite popular view, that is a part of every surah except At-Tawbah, Bara'ah and Al-Anfal. Okay. Bism. It's B ism. That's the root. That's not the root, but that's the ishtiqaq of it, where it comes from. B ism. However, now I'm going to be saying the Arabic grammatical terms, and maybe you can help translate them. Bism is what we called sila za'idah. If you say that the origin of bism is bi ism, it's by the name. If you say that this is not the origin, in other words, you could say that the origin is two words, bi ism, and then you combine them and you took out the hamza because it's redundant, so it became bism, because that's the way it's pronounced, so it's bism. But if you do not believe that, and you do not believe that there are two words, but it's rather that there was no hamza there in the first place, you call it sila za'idah. Sila za'idah means it is not bi ism, but it's sam, and the ba is there for praise, or we call ba al-tafkhim, or ba al-ijlal, or ba al-ikram, that it's there to augment and praise God. Why does this make any difference at all? Because if the ba, if it's bi ism, then bism simply means that it is a summary form of bi ism, right? So it's simply bi ism. Instead of saying bi ism, you say bism. That's all. But if that's not the root of it, and actually the root of it is sam, and you added the ba, then the ba could be for tafkhim, for praising God, and for tabarruk, for special blessings, or what's tabarruk? Blessings. It's as if the ba comes in to endow the word sam with special blessing powers. So consequently, in our culture, when you get scared, what do you say? When someone jumps at you and say, boo. Huh? Well, Ya Allah, but you could say bismillah. Do you use that as well? Yeah. Bismillah. Here, the origin of that is the view that the ba combines with sam to produce للتبرك, to produce this barakah effect, if you will. That's where it makes a difference. So if you believe that it's bi ism, there is no tabarruk, it's simply by the name. Now, there's a further thing. I'm going to say the Arabic terms for those of you who want to learn them, but it's not. If the ba is asl maqsood, asl maqsood means it's not an abridgment of anything. It's an actual letter in its own right. So it's not bi ism, but it's ba plus sam. If it's asl maqsood, then it could mean, when you say bismillah, that it could mean an imperative form, or a khabar form. What's a khabar? للإخبار. A notification form, I guess. A notification form. So in other words, in that case, it would mean not by the name of God. See, why is it by the name of God, the Almighty? We often translate it in English as what? By the name of God, the most graceful and the most... In fact, in your thing here, I wrote it in Arabic. I tend to be smarter than I thought. Okay. We say by the name of God. When we say by the name of God, that means we adhere to the view that it is bi-ism. And then it becomes bismillah. But if you do not adhere to this view, it's not by the name of God. And if you were translating it, you would not translate it as by the name of God. In fact, you would translate it as either begin by the name of God, because here ba becomes asl maqsood. That means it has its independent meaning, and the meaning is lil amr. Asl maqsood fi sighat al amr. That begin by the name of God. It's as if the Qur'an says ibda'u bi ismillah or ibda'u billah. Begin your recitation by the name of God, or it would be past tense and said I began by the name of God. So there's a subtle difference in meaning, but one that does make a difference, because if it's imperative form and it tells you begin by the name of God, then it is an affirmative command that you must begin your whole conceptualization, your whole approach by the name of God. Okay. Bismillah. Illah. Does Allah, is that a name proper? What we call ism alam. Can you translate alam better? Proper name. Ism alam. Lizzat. Describing God, in God's self. Or is it ism sifa, an attribute name? When we say Allah, are we describing an attribute of God, or is it the proper name of God? Those who said that it is a proper name, ism alam lizzat, that's the Arabic, ism alam lizzat, said that it has nothing to do with the attributes of God. Those who said that it is not ism alam lizzat but ism sifa said that Allah mushtaq min sifatillah, that it is obtained, that name is extracted from the attributes of God. Okay, if it is extracted from the attributes of God, extracted exactly from what? What did you extract it from? Here they say two views. One view, it is extracted from ilah. Ilah is, Allah is the tafkhim of ilah. What's tafkhim? How do you translate that? Aggrandizement, or the sort of when you want to pronounce something respectfully, so you produce it in different forms. So if you want to insult the name Khalid, you say Khalid, tasghir. If you want to really insult, you say Khuwailid. That's tasghir. That's really insulting the name. If there is no aggrandizement for Khalid, that's it. But jihad, for example, if I want to aggrandize jihad, I say mujahid, aggrandizement of jihad. If I want to insult jihad, I call him juwayhid, means the little petty jihad. Khuwailid for Khalid, that's little petty. So Allah is the aggrandizement of ilah. Where does ilah come from? Ilah comes from the word walah. Walah. And here is where you start, the beauty of it starts coming to you. Walah means longing. What you long for. Then Allah, which comes from ilah, which comes from walah, describes the being, because remember, this is the school that says Allah describes an attribute, that which you long for. Now, if you keep that in mind, it strikes you as a new way of looking at God. The attribute of God is you long. You long in fear and you long in happiness. حين الفزع وحين الطمأنينة. That you long to increase your serenity and you long to be comforted. Another school said that it is not extracted from ilah, but extracted from uluhiyya. Uluhiyya. Uluhiyya means worship, ibadah. The meaning of uluhiyya is ibadah. But ibadah itself means, again, dependency and longing. So you end up in the same circle. So then, when you ask Muslim nowadays, tell me, what is the name of Allah? They say, the name of God. They say, Allah. Brother, don't use the name God, because God has one name, Allah. Which school? They never know that, of course, because Muslims nowadays don't know anything about, Muslims in the United States particularly, don't know anything about anything. But which school are they referring to? What school do they follow? They just don't know it. Is it an attribute or a proper name? Proper name. But then they come, so in other words, they've excluded the attribute school. But if you say, I can use God, but I can describe God as Allah, then here, is it proper name or attribute? Attribute. And then you might say that the attribute of Allah is that what you long for, you ache for. Now, bismillah. Let's say we are the longing school, the attribute school. Then by the name of that I long and ache for. Or, I start by the name of that which I long and ache for. Completely different meaning. Completely different positioning. Ar-Rahman, ar-Rahim. Bismillah ar-Rahman, ar-Rahim. I don't think we're going to finish the Fatiha today, so we're probably going to finish it next week, inshallah. It's not too much, since this is really the mother of the book, as they call it. So. Ar-Rahman is a Hebrew word, Arabized Hebrew word. Why do we say it's an Arabized Hebrew word? Because the word Rahman, before the Qur'an was revealed, was not used by Arabs. The Arabs did not know that word. The Arabs knew the word Rahim. They used Rahim, but they did not use the word Rahman. And when the Qur'an comes and uses Rahman, the Arabs stare. What is this? Since when do you have that strange construction of that word? Rahim we know, but Rahman, where did you get that from? We found that word, and actually we didn't find it. Arabs around the 3rd century found it in Hebrew. It was known to Hebrew, and it was used in Hebrew. Now, it makes us pause for a second. I mean, it is rather strange. Here, this book seems to be entirely comfortable with several languages at the same time. I mean, it's a type of thing that you'll never hear me say in the Qur'an class. But it is something that one should notice. This is not someone... What happens when I know French poorly and I try to use French words as I'm writing Arabic? What happens? I make mistakes in the proper contextualization of the word. Like my undergraduates in the Qur'an class, when they try to use big words, they couldn't use them. Everyone wants to sound very sophisticated, so we try to use big words. But they use them all in the wrong way, right? Why? Because they're not comfortable with the word usage. They might know what it means in a technical sense, but usage-wise, they don't know it. So if I try to use French or German or Chinese, and I'm not comfortable with the usage, it doesn't fit. One of the remarkable things about the Qur'an is that it doesn't only use Arabic, but it uses Hebrew, Syriac, Aramaic, Persian, Turkish words, all entirely comfortably within the correct application. This area is covered in books called Gharib al-Qur'an. This is the book that I left behind in Richardson, and then I panicked. And I called the guy and said, send it to me, send it to me. I found one of the books on Gharib al-Quran. I have several of them. And I said, I've read so much about this. I'm not going to buy another one. And then after I came here, I felt, felt terrible. So I called the man and said, send me the book. He sent me the wrong one. So I'm still aching. But at least I know no one will buy it. So, at least let him forget that I'm craving after the books, so he doesn't shoot the price from $20 for the book to $50. So, let a while, some time pass before I start going after it. But this is the field called Gharib al-Quran. If you want to read about the non-Arabic words in the Quran, this is what you... Gharib al-Quran, the strange words of the Quran, strange not in the negative sense, but in the sense of alien to Arabic. It is quite remarkable, again, that it is used comfortably. So Rahman is not known to Arabic, it was known to Hebrew, ar-Rahim is known to Arabic. This is what we call in Arabic ism, Ibrani Mu'arrab. Ibrani Mu'arrab means that it's Hebrew Arabized. Hebrew Arabized word. Now, Rahman, Rahim. Rahman, Rahim. What does Rahman and Rahim mean? Both of them come from the same root. What is the same root? Rahma. What does Rahma mean? Mercy. But are both of them extracted from the same meaning or not? The way they used to phrase it is like that. هل مشتقان من رحمة واحدة أم لا؟ هل مشتقان من رحمة واحدة أم لا? Are they both extracted from the same mercy or not? In other words, to put it differently, is there any difference between Rahmah and Rahman and Rahim? There are many points of view. Just because it's your right to know, if you wish to become teachers one day, and if I would be in the process of considering certifying you, this is what I would expect you to know, that there are several views. One said Rahman means merciful towards all the creation of God, while Rahim means merciful towards Muslims in particular. One said Rahman means merciful towards everyone in this life and in the hereafter, while Rahim covers this life alone. One says, a third school says, Rahman means it is the mercy that only God has, the quality of mercy that only God has, while Rahim is the quality of mercy that God shares with with human beings. In other words, Rahman is the type of mercy that only God has. Rahim is the type of mercy that God shares with human beings. These are three schools that I have to be honest with you, I personally, and I don't want to bias you against these schools because they might be, one of them might be the correct school, Allahu A'lam, God knows best. But I personally do not give much weight to. In my view, I do not give much weight to. But again, they you're more than free to consider one of them as the true and authentic school, or the true and authentic opinion. There are two further schools that I give much more weight to. One says, ar-Rahman صفته wal-Rahim فعله. What does that mean? Rahman is his attribute, and Rahim is his action. In other words, this is school number 4. Rahman is what God is. Rahim is what God does. And it is as if God is telling you, by the name of that you long for. Now, when I long for someone, it is because I expect from, what is it that I want from that someone or something? I could be some sick person and I long for that who's going to abuse me and beat me, right? But under normal circumstances, I long for that I find peace, comfort, compassion with. And the response to, by the name of that you long for, because this is if you are from the attribute school. If you are the proper name school, then it's just by the name of God, nothing more. That it is as if God is telling you, I am mercy in attribute and mercy in action. It is, my mercy is not theory. My mercy is theory and action. صفة وفعلا. صفة وفعلا. That's the expression used. The 5th school says Rahman is according to what, على وزن what? Do you know? Like فعل, فعول, فعلان. Exactly. Rahman على وزن فعلان. ورحيم على وزن what? فعيل. Exactly. فعلان, that wazn, invariably refers, this is the 5th school, تدل على صفة عارضة. What does that mean? تدل على صفة عارضة. Not constant. عارضة, passing. Passing attribute. In other words, فعلان, this is 5th school, says فعلان, because Rahman is at the balance, what's wazn? Scale. According to the scale of the verb فعلان. And فعلان in Arabic always means a passing attribute. So, for example, غضبان. What does غضبان mean? Angry. Are you angry all the time? No, you say, أنا غضبان, mean I am angry right now. عطشان, what does that mean? Thirsty. Are you thirsty all the time? No, I am not now thirsty. Likewise, the 5th school says Rahman refers to the fact that God is merciful on particular occasions. But then that means that there are other occasions in which God is not merciful. Now, فعيل, Rahim, تدل على معان ثابتة. What does that mean? That's constant. So, for example, when I come and say, أنت كريم, you are generous. Does it mean you are generous right now but not tomorrow? No, it means you're always generous. When I come and say, أنت جميل, you are beautiful. Does it mean you're beautiful right now but not tomorrow? No. So, here, the 5th school said, God comes and tells you على صيغتين, على صيغة فعلان وعلى صيغة فعيل, according to 2 scales, the scale of فعلان and the scale of فعيل. According to both, God is in a constant state of being Rahim, always merciful, and responds to your longing with added occasionalities of particular mercy. So, that God generally is merciful by simply the fact of creation. The attribute of God is merciful. But, as you know, not all longing is the same. So sometimes I can say bismillah, ar-Rahman, ar-Rahim, before I jump into a scrumptious meal. Another time I can say bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim before I delve, before, may God forbid, I'm going to go into a most traumatic event, like visiting my sick son in the hospital. So in other words, you invoke the name of Allah, the attribute of Allah, in situations that are normal, and in particular situations where you need God especially. Rahim covers the normal, and Rahman covers the special. Okay. One more point, and then we'll call it. We'll disperse, because I can see the exhaustion on your faces, invoking both the fa'lan and fa'il forms of mercy. There is a further elaboration upon the Rahman ar-Rahim. Note here that you already have, we talked about the first three schools, and we're not going to, I mentioned them, and I focused on the fourth and the fifth. The fourth school, which said that Rahman is the attribute, while Rahim is the action. This, by the way, what the most famous champion of the school is Ibn Qayyim Juzayh, the Hanbali scholar. The fifth school, in fact, if you've noticed, inverts it. In other words, for the fourth school, Rahman is more essential than Rahim. It's what's constant. For the fifth school, it's exactly the opposite. I hope you noticed that. Among the fourth school is the notion that Allah, on fundamental issues, is Rahman. In special favors, that's when you find Allah Rahim. So according to the fourth school, when I sit and I say, Allah, I know you've given me so much, but I ask you help in this particular issue because I have no one else to turn to. I am invoking the Rahim, according to the fourth school. Because here, I am invoking a special act of mercy from Allah. According to the fifth school, it would say, no, you're actually invoking the Rahman. The way that you would always hear the fourth school formulate its attribute, and I want to share it with you because I think it's quite interesting, it's quite beautiful. And if you would, you know, you guys know Maher Hathout, right? All of you. You don't know Maher Hathout. Maher Hathout is this, he's a medical doctor. He established the Islamic Center in Southern California. Quite a figure. Sort of everyone in the Muslim community in California knows Maher Hathout. They either love him and his Islamic Center, or they hate him and his Islamic Center. But if they hate him, they don't hate him for any personal reasons. They hate him because they think he's liberal. If they love him because they think he understands true Islam, whatever, which way it is. Anyway, what the example I want to give is completely unrelated to Maher Hathout specifically. But Maher Hathout once, he used to teach a course in medical school in Loma Linda Medical College, and he would ask certain questions on the exam, and then even if you did very well on the exam otherwise, but you got that question wrong, he would flunk you. Because according to him, there are certain things that it's okay for a doctor to miss. There are certain things that you must expect a doctor to know. They're so basic that you must know. There is a statement, Sharif, there is a statement that is one of this genre. Is it genre? Right? Okay. I used to say genre. But I guess that's the genre. One of this genre that relates to the fourth school and became quite famous. And it's this. ar-Rahman mun'im bijala'il al-ni'am. Try to transliterate it. War-Rahim mun'im bidaqa'iq al-ni'am. The Rahman mun'im, what's mun'im? Generously giving. Bijala'il al-ni'am, as to the generalities of blessings. That's what gives you the gravity that keeps you on the earth, the sky, the process for oxygen, the way that every day there's a sun and a night and rain and so on. All of that. ar-Rahman mun'im bijala'il al-ni'am. ar-Rahim mun'im bidaqa'iq al-ni'am. Now that ar-Rahim is what generously give as to the specific blessings. So ar-Rahim is the grantor of these specific blessings that you invoke that fall outside the normal routine of life. Now note here, we started with the Fatiha. How far did we get? Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. That's all. So I don't know if we'll get done next week with the rest of the Fatiha, perhaps. And then you'll see how significant this is. Now, let's go back to this point I made earlier, that I believe it's a part of the Fatiha. Are you willing to say, now, note how crucial the discourse it played. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I start by the name of that I long for, who is merciful in the generalities and the specifics. Long for in the basic mercy and in the specific mercy that I obtain from that I long for. But yet, some argue that this is not a part of the Fatiha, and that the Fatiha really begins with alhamdulillahi, rabbil alameen. That's why I don't buy that school. It seems to me to be foundation. واسأل الله لي ولكم العافية والغفران وأن يزدنا علما وأن